Thank you. Who's my guest?
And
Okay. Okay, this is a meeting of the Ad-Hoc Parking Committee, and we had a guest tonight, John Miskell, who from Duncan Technology, who's going to be presenting to us one of the possible versions of how we might change our parking system. Greetings, John. You're muted. Can't hear you yet.
Sure.
All right.
Well, forgive me. We don't customarily use Zoom, and it's been quite a while since I've been on it, and I was doing something else when you opened up the mic. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Let me turn this fan off though, in case that might be interfering. So thank you everyone for inviting me. I was wishing that you guys were having this meeting last week. I was up in, where the heck was I? I was up Verona, was it? Not too far from Syracuse for the New York State Parking and Transportation Annual Conference and Trade Show. So I went up to visit, and it wouldn't have been very difficult. My office, when the owner of Duncan recruited me out of retirement, he asked me if I would move to Milwaukee, and I said I would stick myself in the eye with the fork before I moved to Milwaukee. So I'm down here in Philadelphia, so I had to pass fairly close to Hudson, so it wouldn't have been that far much out of my way. I wasn't sure what to expect, so when all else fails, throw a little PowerPoint together, right? Pardon me?
Yes, that's the default way, yes.
Yeah. So, can I take it for granted that most of you know who Duncan is, or should I go into that? Do you want to just dive right into what we proposed? Or would you like to go into a little bit about our background, or what is it that you want to hear?
Quick bit about your background, and then, tell us about what you propose.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a good place to start. I learned I'm old enough to know that always ask the customer what he wants to know, right? Don't just start talking and tell him what he wants to know, right? Let me figure out Zoom here and how I am supposed, I'm at the wrong one here. How I'm supposed to share my screen. I know there's a share screen button here before, because there it is. Okay, we're going to start share. And I just need to go to my PowerPoint, which is where? I have it loaded up here on my desktop, and I am seeing everything. I am seeing Eagles logos. There it is.
Sorry, Tom, while we're waiting for this is Margaret. Is there an agenda for this evening's meeting? I couldn't find it.
No.
There's no agenda.
Okay.
So this is a pretty big parking committee. I did a, what do you call it? A Google Maps view of Hudson as well. Can you see my screen?
Yes, now we can.
There we go. So a little presentation for the city of Hudson, New York by yours truly. From Duncan Parking Technologies, which is a Civic Smart company. Civic Smart acquired Duncan Parking Technologies in 2015. Duncan, we are not the Dunkin' Donuts people, but if you are familiar with the Dunkin' Yo-Yo,
Ooh,
yeah, Duncan Parking Meter Company was founded in 1936 by Donald Duncan, who had to be a heck of a guy. He never invented anything, but he was able to look at an idea and say, "Boy, that's pretty cool." And he was a World War I vet. He lived in San Francisco, saw a cute toy, and he ran with it. And he made the guy who made the toy a millionaire, and he made himself a millionaire. Saw the parking meter made by a guy named Miller who couldn't market it. Donald knew how to market it. And he bought the patent with gave Miller the rights to 50% of the profits for the 20 years that the patent would run. And in 20 years, they had 88% of the market around the world. And Miller didn't have to do anything, but Duncan did a really good job. He would go into these, he moved the company down to Los Angeles. He would go into these Mexican grocery stores, and he saw how the ladies would give people credit for the things that they bought, and he would give them, they would, for X amount of dollars purchased, they would give them a prize, or they would pick a toy. And that was the impetus for the S&H green stamps. So he was a clever guy. I wish I knew him, you know. And then also in California, he refrigeration was coming along, and he threw some refrigeration in a truck and sent some of his guys out in starched white uniforms, and he was the first good humor man. So he was an idea guy, right? So I really would have liked to have met him. Today, we have our equipment is in more than 5,500 municipalities, universities, military installations across 5 continents. It's a pretty incredible feat. Right now, there are 4 different companies who are in this, what I call the single space meter business. There were dozens back then in Duncan's days, but there's four left standing. And of the 4, we probably have equipment in more locations than the other 3 combined, right? So we have a little bit of experience. You'll look at those 4 pictures there, and you'll see some similarities. Those and that didn't happen by mistake. When the current owner of Duncan, what happened when Duncan died, when Donald Duncan died, he passed it on to his son. And then when his son died, he passed it on to his grandchildren. And by the time of the turn of the century into the year 2000, you had 33 grandchildren and great grandchildren running the company. I'm sorry? I thought I heard something. So you had 33 grandchildren running the company, and no one could agree on anything. And they were buying different subsidiaries and what have you. And by 2015, they wanted to sell the company. And they had already been down the road a ways on a credit card enabled parking meter. But anyhow, the guy who bought the company scrapped that, and he went a different way. The guy who bought the company, I don't expect any of you to remember this name. His name is Balu Subramayamnia. And he's a young fella that he never paid a dime in his life for his education. He went to school from elementary on up to his postgrad work, all on grants. He graduated at the top of his class in engineering school in one of the top engineering schools in the world. And then he won a postgrad scholarship from NASA to go to Penn State and do his postgrad work. And then he went to work at NASA on the U-2 spy plane project, working on micro camera lenses that can take high resolution photographs from 13 miles in space. And what's that got to do with parking? Well, when he left there, he was recruited by ACS, state and local government services, which now they do, if you look them up, they do welfare payments, and they do things for parolees. They do all kinds of stuff. And they have a silo that manages on-street parking for, I think it is 18 of the largest cities in the United States. Comprehensive management, enforcement, meter collection, repair. And he was curious, what do you want with me? And he said, well, you have a certain set of skills. Almost sounds like a spy movie. And they said, we have this nascent technology that we use to read license plates, and it's not quite accurate. We would like your help with it. And it's LPR, license plate reading technology. And that's right. He said, what do you do with it? He said, well, we read license plates. He said, for what? They said, so we can write parking tickets. He said, oh, that's awful. But this is how he discovered the parking world, like most of us in the parking world. I'm a retired Philadelphia policeman, and I've never met anyone in the parking world who, well, when we were in middle school or whatever, raised our hand and said that we're going to go into the parking industry. Right? So Duncan came available for sale in 2015, and he jumped at it, and he purchased the hardware portion, which was the meters, and the enforcement technology, right? Handheld enforcement technology. Meters are still a big part of parking, and he figured if he's going to be making parking meters, he wants to make a good one. But he also sees the future that he believes that his goal in life is to make the parking meter eventually become obsolete, right? And I think all of us on this meeting would think that that's a pretty good goal, right? So he scrapped the meter that they had been working on, which was unnecessarily complex. And if you would look at the meter to the left, right, to the far left here, at least it is far left on mine, that's the meter that he came up with. And the you'll notice that the LCD screen is much larger than, if you try to visualize any of the parking meters that you've seen. It's a much larger LCD screen than what you would normally see. When you put your card in there, or when you put a coin in there, that screen lights up, right? Day or night, so it's backlit, right? It's angled in such a way, so it's angled down towards the user to make it much easier to see, right? So it's a very high, I forget what the word is, to the legibility, right? The meter itself, the other competitors all use solar panels to augment the batteries in their meters. And they all have terrible problems with keeping their batteries charged. And one of them in particular, they just kind of seem to chronically have that problem, and they don't show up for months. So, he's got a really good long history with managing battery power at the millivolt level. And so he decided that, well, obviously the idea is not to build a parking meter with a built-in solar panel. The idea is to build a better battery, and that manages power better, right? And that's exactly what he did. The meter, if you look at the similarities there, the meter is modular, right? Very easy to work, very simple. That comes out of the housing. There's 2 thumb bolts that open up. Very easy to open up the top if you need to get to the coin slot, which is the most common thing that goes. Somebody jams something in there. You can look down in there, you can pull it right out, right? Swap it out with the new one, or stick a screwdriver down there and push whatever it is through, and it's done. It's clear. You plug it back in and you're done. The LCD display, that conceivably can go. And again, it's just a matter of lifting the front off, and the LCD display comes up. There's a flat tab. You lift that off the connection. You put the new one on. You send the old, one back for repair. If someone stuck a screwdriver through the housing and into the LCDs. So very, very easy to work, and you're back up and running. In the third, or this, let's say second from the right, there's a coin operated meter, right? Which is the entry level. But let's suppose you have those out in the periphery, but then you decide that you're getting busy and you want to upgrade your meters to a credit card enabled meter, right? Well, you don't have to buy new meters. All you do is you slip the front plate off of the coin operated meter and you put a credit card plate on the front and you're ready to go just immediately. I think that's brilliant. The other two, if you have situations, and we find many, where you might want to manage 2 parking spaces from 1 meter. That's the what's called the dual space there. Very economical. And so you get a bigger bang for your dollar there. And on the other side, I'm not a big fan of that one. It's a multi-space meter. That one manages 14 spaces. That's good for a small parking lot. But for my dollar in the basket, I would block the coin acceptor. Don't accept coins in that at all, because if you have 14 people using that 1 meter, and that coin canister is going to fill up very, very, very quickly. You might as well just keep one of your attendants out there very quickly, all day long. The batteries in them, they'll run, they're guaranteed for a year. You can buy an extended warranty on the batteries. I normally don't recommend anybody does, because I think it's too expensive to do it. The batteries run. We're seeing them run. I'm talking to guys that use them in the field, the customers, and they're running 5-6 years on those batteries. So there's no need. And if you do get one that's bad and it runs out after the year and it won't charge, right? Well, they run $49, right? So it's cheaper than buying the extended warranty. So they're affordable. They'll do a day's work, and they just keep on running, right? Let's see what we got here.
Hi, this is Margaret Morris, council member from the First Ward.
Hi, Margaret.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
There are a couple of different approaches to parking, one of which is meters that are associated with spaces. Another is where you have pay and display, maybe every 50 yards. You have a machine where you put your money in, you put in a certain number of time, and then you place that in your dashboard. Do any of these meters support pay and display, where you don't have designated spots, but you have parking in a particular area? You get your ticket, you put it in your windscreen, and off you go. Do any of these support that?
No, they don't. And we've decided to go a different way. I've been doing this a long time, since I've retired, and I've been involved in both ways, right? And I've done some very small deployments in some small places, and I've done some very large deployments, say in San Francisco and Dallas and Washington, D.C., for example, and some small ones like Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and Taylor, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's like Clymer, Pennsylvania. And everything in between. With the kiosks in general, right? When Baloo purchased, when he acquired Duncan, he didn't want to. They also had a multi-space meter like that. They called it the Duncan Rhino. He didn't want it. Right. My experience with them, and most of our experience with them, is that the public aren't big fans of them. Right. They're unnecessarily complicated. If you go to a city at a very busy time, you'll find people backing up, standing, waiting for someone to sort it out, right, to get it. Usually not so much of a problem on a nice sunny day, but if it's raining or somebody's in a hurry for one reason or another, that's not a good thing. The pay and display model is my least favorite, because you come in, say if you park at the end of the block, you get out, you have to see where's the meter, right, to begin with, the kiosk. Then you got to walk down the block or up the block, find the meter, navigate through the meter to figure out how to use it, get your receipt, walk back to your car, put your receipt on the dashboard, right? What happens often, unfortunately, too, if a person slams their door, they're in a hurry and they're not looking. When they slam the door, there goes the receipt off of the dashboard, right? Or it flips upside down, right? There's a number of things that can happen. If it's out there all day, if it's for 2 hours in the sun and it's thermal paper, it fades and the parking enforcement officer can't read it, right? Or if you have especially female parking enforcement officers that are small of stature, and you have these guys that buy these big 4-wheel trucks on the big wheels, and they, because they like sitting up in traffic above everybody else, they have to climb up on the truck just to see the receipt. So there's a lot of downsides to having those pay and display. There's a lot that can go wrong with them too. There's a lot of just a lot of moving parts.
I have to tell you that I have used them in many countries, in many places. I've also used them in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Right.
One of the ones that I really liked in Harrisburg, where the state of Pennsylvania was my client, and I had meetings with them. They had an electronic system where I did not even have to put the ticket into my dashboard. I could just charge whatever, put in my license plate number,
Right. That's a different model. Right.
Go to my meeting. If my meeting was running late, I would simply go on my phone, pull up the app, and additional time. So, I'm just saying that there are much more inventive approaches to metering and paying for parking than meters that are associated with a specific space. And let me finish.
I'm not letting you, we're not here to compare this right now. We're letting Mr.
I understand, but I'd like to finish the point that I'm trying to make.
Wait. I know that's hard for you to understand, but please wait. John, can you continue?
Sure. And for everybody, at the end of my presentation, my phone number and my email is at the end. I'm glad to entertain questions and why I think one outweighs the other, right? So anyhow, so there's 4 different options there, right? And granted, we're never going to be able to satisfy everyone, right? Something I do like about it, if you have a block face where say you have 10 parking spaces on the east side of the street and 10 parking spaces on the west side of the space, if one of the meters goes down for whatever reason, well, one of the meters goes down and you have 9 others still functioning. If one of the kiosks go down, well, you have the entire block on that side of the street is gone down, right? So on all of our meters, no matter how they are set up, right? They have those LED lights up there on the top, on front and back. They could be seen from 85 feet away, front and back. Easy for your enforcement guy to see. They fit into a traditional housing, whether ours or any of the other competition. And incidentally, all of the competition build their housings to look exactly like ours, just about, because we were there first, right? These meters receive software updates and they can receive most fixes remotely, right? They don't have to go back to the shop for any reason. They can just any of those types of fixes they can receive over the air. They accept coins, debit, credit, smart cards, tokens, mobile payments. You can pay for your parking remotely, right? You don't have to go back to the meter to put money in the meter. As I mentioned earlier, the batteries are fully rechargeable and there's no need to replace batteries every year. The buttons, they're very tactile. They're intuitive. They're very easy to use. Very easy to use.
John, do they work with an app?
They do work with any app, right? We're open AI. We're we want to work with anyone, so we work with any mobile app, right? Any of them that are out there. So that's not a problem at all. We have customers that nowadays maybe 80% of their payments are now through mobile app, right? So that's interesting. I remember when it first started and people said, oh, this is not gonna go. Nobody's gonna do this. Well, I don't
You
think-
want the
Go ahead.
the multi-space can handle 14 spaces.
Right.
But that has the same problem as a kiosk. I would assume that if it goes down, all 14 are not usable.
Well, that's right. But however, there's a difference though, is you know, is cost, right? The cost of doing it, right? The only way now, ours, the only way you can set that thing that looks like a single space meter is pay by space. You have to put space numbers out there. It's not clever enough to do like it won't spit out a receipt, or you can't enter your license plate number, right? There's not enough room on the onboard computer to do that, right? So you have to put a space number in there, and the person has to come and put their space number on there. So that's one drawback, right? But other than that, say on a small parking lot or whatever, where you got 10, 12, 13 spaces, right? You could run that parking space, operate that parking space for less than $1,000, whereas your low end multi-space machine, your low end kiosks run anywhere between like 6,000 and 8,000, and then they start going up from there. And I don't know what they do with those things, but they can go up dramatically from there, you know. So so if you look at a cost perspective, you know, there's
Before we go back to Margaret's questions, does anybody have questions about this model, this version of? Anybody online? Bill?
How are the batteries recharged?
we provide all of these with a charger, right? I don't have one with me here, but there's a charger that comes with it. Now, with the size of the deployment in there in Hudson, in our proposal, we recommend a larger, so you can have be charging multiple batteries at any given time, right? Because you're going to have, you'll be looking at your dashboard. We provide a live dashboard. You'll know what the status of your batteries are at any given time. So your parking manager can set up work orders, and he knows that these batteries should be, swapped out. So, so he can put them on a schedule. So you'll have batteries back in the office charging at any given time. So we have I think it's a 30-bay battery charger that we recommended in our proposal that you should have, as opposed to one charger, one battery, you know what I mean?
So you say you also do enforcement technology?
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. In fact, we are the very first company. I mean, I don't know if this is claim to fame. I would never say this in a restaurant, but we wrote the very first electronic parking ticket in the United States. That won't win you any prizes, right? At the time, we called it the auto site, right? It was a big monstrosity of a thing. You could, if somebody came after you, you could hit them with it, right? And again, we have more than 700 cities, universities, parking authorities, police departments use what's now has become the auto issue. We're just closing on a deal that's given me gray hair over the past 2 years for over 10,000 of these handheld units for the Houston Police Department. They want to carry one in each car because the parking enforcement officers go home at 5 p.m., right? The civilian parking enforcement officers. But there's plenty of times when the police department will run into something, right? And they don't, they'd rather not have them writing paper tickets and that type of thing. So that's what the unit looks like. It's built on an Android phone, right? It's the software that counts. It has a built-in printer on it. So when the officer walks along and he sees a car that he thinks may be in violation, all he does is point the camera towards the license plate, and it will read the license plate, right? And within 2 seconds, it will read 19 different databases. It'll read, it'll look for Amber Alerts. It'll look for, what do they call it? The senior citizen alerts, gray, I forget what they call those, right? Local police departments could enter their own hot lists in there, but now things like Amber Alerts, critical alerts like that, stolen cars, those hits don't come back to the parking enforcement officer. They go to the agency that, that's concerned with them. We don't want to, inadvertently get the parking enforcement officer involved in something that, you know what I mean? The guy's wanted for murder and the parking enforcement officer says, hey, that's him. We don't want that to happen. We want that alert to go back to the police department that put that alert in, and then that'll tell that police department that that person's car is parked where it is, right? But it'll also tell them if their meter is expired, or if their registration is expired, or that type of thing, or if it's an invalid plate. So once he finishes scanning the plate, then all he needs to do is what happens is the ticket will populate, right? So once it populates, all the information is there, right? Depending how New York State wants to do it, and how well we know how New York State wants to do it, depending how the city of Hudson wants to do it. Every city, you're the boss of how you want to run things, right? So New York is a what do you call it? You guys can write your own ordinances and what have you. So if you want, you can send the ticket directly to the vehicle owner of record, right? The parking enforcement officer doesn't have to put it on the windshield of the vehicle. Some states requires the officer to put it on the, in a conspicuous place of the vehicle. New York State doesn't have to do that, right? And I think there's some value in that, right? That, maybe.
Okay, thank you, John. We have a system similar to that, but we'll look at that as well. But to get back to the meters, which is our main interest here, is there anything else you'd like to add about your system of meters? You don't do kiosks. You've already made that clear. You don't do kiosks at all.
We don't do kiosks at all, because again, we don't believe there's limited value in them. We believe the cost per space is very expensive. The cost to operate them is very expensive.
The other question I had, John, was, have you tried or have any experience with putting QR codes on your meters in any fashion?
Yes, sir, we do. We've developed another technology, and I believe it could be done. I know it could be done here now. Now, for one, our meters, it's not shown on this presentation, and I'm going to add it to it. We do a NFC reader on these meters as well. Now, it's it's an additional cost for that, but it's nominal. Where a person who has their card, they could just tap and pay. You know what I mean? And these meters are capable of that. But they are also capable of doing a QR code. We also have a touchless a touchless technology that we've been rolling out. We have several deployments of it now in some of the larger cities that we're just kind of hanging on, seeing how how it's being greeted very well. We're installing. Sir?
Yes, we've heard about problems with QRs being, what would be the word, hijacked, in the sense of putting a QR. I mean,
That's right. If you put a paper QR code out there, it could be easily hijacked, right? So the solution is what's called a dynamic QR code, so that the QR code changes each time, right?
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Thank you. Again, council members or whoever's out there, any questions for John?
No, but I have a question for you, Tom. John referenced a proposal that he had submitted.
Yes, I haven't seen it, but, well,
Neither, that's why I was asking, because I haven't seen it.
I'll circulate it immediately. But it's still early because, as John knows, we have to, you know, of course, we can't just pick one and go with it. We have to look at a couple others as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, I'll make sure that gets circulated tomorrow.
Right, yeah, that's only fair. That's only fair.
I think Vicky has her hand up.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. John, is there a municipality nearby that we can go and check them out? Because I really like to see the product.
Let me get a list. I know Albany
Okay.
has these specific meters, if Albany's not that much of a drive for you.
No, it's not.
Okay, good, great, yeah.
Will they be like that? Where about in Albany? Is it everywhere?
Right, in the central business district, sure.
Okay.
There's
right,
quite a
thank you
few
so
of them. Yeah, there's quite a few. And they just got them, within the last year and a half or so, and maybe even less than a year and a half, yeah.
Perfect. Thank
It
you.
must be spread out because most of like Central Avenue is
Oh, there you go. You've seen them.
kiosk based. No, I actually haven't seen that. I've seen the kiosk based ones. I will look for this in my next video.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add if it's possible to give us access to this presentation along with the proposal so that we could delve into it a little deeper.
I'd have
Or
to take
parts
a
of
look
it.
to see who it's addressed to, right? Before I go putting my foot in my mouth, you know what I mean? I've done that before, right?
So John, who did you submit your proposal to?
I don't have it in front of me. And in fact, I didn't submit it. That was submitted from the office. So
You want to submit it to Tracy?
I have it. I will forward it.
Tracy, you have it. Okay, great.
John, quick question. So you said that it has the capability of collecting the data from the owner of the car and sending the ticket straight to them?
Not the meters, but the enforcement handhelds, right?
Oh, the handheld. Okay.
Right.
So, okay. So that then what happens to that information that stay or that disappear into the handheld?
Well, that just disappears into the vaporware, world, right? We're only allowed to keep it for X amount of days. We're not allowed to hold on to it.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for John? Bill?
We have a problem, John, in town here, our meters getting vandalized with paint and stickers. Is there any, benefit to your meters, like removing paint or stickers?
Yeah, well, stickers on the outside, well, you may have that from time to time. The in Washington, D.C., we have some technology in there that do require a fairly, it's a 5-inch by 5-inch canted solar panel. And somebody did come and put some spray paint on the top of it. And I'm not the operations guy, but I have a background in operations. And I was there with one of the guys from DDOT, the District Department of Transportation. And he said, so yeah, what do you do about that? Right. And I said, well, watch. And I opened up the back door and I, popped the lid and I peeled the peeled the film off that's there for that reason and closed it back up. And I said, that's all there is to it. Right. So yeah, there's protective film that comes on any of the, transparent surfaces, right? That can be peeled off and either a new one put on, but there's with the solar panels, there's several layers before you have to put new ones on. On the metal, if I haven't really encountered that myself, where I've had to deal with that, I'd have to ask some of the operations guys from cities, what they do when they encounter it, I know years ago, 15 years ago or so, it was pretty common for people to try to break into these things, right? Until finally, after a long time, they realized, God, it's hard, and then for very little, they get very little take on it, you know? They've got to hit it the night before they're collected, right? And even still, they're going to get what out of there? They're going to do a lot of work to get cash out of it and maybe get what, $50, you know? So
John, let's say at some point coins are no longer relevant to the meter.
that's
And we
right.
don't- So that would be an easy fix to upgrade?
A lot of people stop them. A lot of people put a metal, you know, a metal block there at the coin slot. And on the LED screen, you see where it says, welcome to City Smart, Liberty Next Gen. For example, we're just installed meters over in Caldwell, New Jersey, just outside of New York. And that's exactly what they did. They bought these meters and that type of housing. And it says, welcome to Caldwell, cards only. That's, you know, and yeah, they won't take coins. So I don't know if that's something you would want to consider. We can accommodate that, you know?
Not right away, I don't think, but yeah, especially if you get up to $1 an hour or more,
Right,
you know, coins aren't gonna make much sense if you have to have
right,
10 meters to, you know. pay for your meter.
exactly. Yeah, some of those communities out on Long Island, they still charge 50 cents an hour, but they have an $80 expired meter fine. I can't figure that one out.
Did you say $80? Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yes, sir.
Any other questions for John?
I-
Oh, Tracy,
John, could you send us an example of the dynamic QR code, and where would that be found on the meter?
Well, that would come up on the screen, right? If we put it on, right? If we put it on, we are capable of it. We currently have it on our contactless system. We call it Curb Sense, but this doesn't have a parking meter on it. Curb Sense generally, we weren't really intending to put any type of method on there for payment. But we ended up doing business with a private development down outside of Houston, right outside the Houston airport, with the fellow, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but his grandfather started buying land outside the airport to build homes and then left it to his father, and he kept adding to the land. And then he ended up inheriting the land. Well, now he's sitting on a piece of land that's about the size of Manhattan. Right. And so he started building a new city, right? Really, a city. He's got a college there. He's got a high school there. He's got a fire department. He's got townhomes. He's got some retail. And he's going, now there's warehouses, there's a hotel, there's a Hilton hotel, and they're going and going and going. Well, in the little business district that they have now, they were interested in our new Curb Sense, the contactless thing. And Ryan McCord Development, and it's a place called Generation Park. You can look it up. And he was adamant. He wanted for his people. He wanted a dynamic QR code on there, and if they didn't have a camera, then he wanted a text on there that they could text to park. So we accommodated him on that. So we're pretty nimble, right?
the point is with those screens, right? With those screens, there's a lot you can do.
That's correct. As long as we have a screen, we can do that, right? Now, would would the CEO make a decision to, put a lot of time and development in for a customer, that's not a New York City or a Washington, you know what I mean? I don't know if the business decision would be there. You know what I mean? Washington DC has 23,000 parking meters, and I'm just being honest here. I wouldn't want to, mislead you and say, oh yeah, we can do that. We'll have it done for you. I don't really think that he would.
The proposal you sent to Tracy, I'm assuming that has all the numbers as well?
Oh yeah.
Estimated numbers.
Estimated numbers. Great.
Right, yeah.
Well, unless there's any other questions, I want to thank you, John, for
Yeah,
joining
well,
us.
I have one question for you guys. Now, do you have housings already? Did you have meters before?
Yes, we have meters. Right now.
And they're Duncan meters?
Yes.
Yes,
So you have housings there already, correct?
well, we want to meter more of the city, but yes.
Oh, I see. Because I was going to say, as part of our proposal, we're including housings, with it, for these to go in. And the housings are almost as expensive as the meters, right? And if you already have housings for the old meters, you would only need a modified dome to accommodate the smart meter, right? So, but I understand.
Great, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okey dokey. Well, I thank you all, and I'd be happy. I'm only in Philadelphia, home of the Eagles and Phillies. I'd be so happy to come up if you need me to come up. I'd be happy to do a walkthrough and whatever.
Right, well, as I said, we have to interview at least 2 more providers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, also consider other possibilities, which I think a couple members have suggested they might want to pursue in terms of kiosks, but we'll see. And we'll definitely keep in touch. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, I'm available to you. Thank you now. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you much. So,
Oh,
for discussion, I mean, I don't know if we really want to get into the today, whether, we want to go with something else other than meters right now. I mean, we can talk about that anytime in this committee, whether it's going to be meters or kiosks. Any questions from council members in general about the
Yeah,
future?
I think John is still on the call.
I think he is. Well, he's on.
His screen is still displaying and he's still showing as a participant.
Let me see if I can make sure he's still in.
I am still on. I'm trying to figure out how to get out. Right?
At the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you should see something that says leave.
I'm doing it. There you go, he's gone.
Okay, yeah, I have a couple of questions, Tom. What other
Okay.
proposals have we received?
None yet. We're just starting.
Yeah, we don't have none, just only one.
Okay, what else?
Sorry, my question was, what other proposals have we received?
No, just one, we don't have another.
Okay. Can we talk as a committee about various approaches that we may take to this problem as opposed
Absolutely.
to? Okay.
That's what I guess you weren't listening. That's exactly what I just said. Now that John's gone, we can talk about, do we want to, or not at this point, whether we want to go, but we don't have to make a decision about it, but yes, we can talk about other options without a doubt.
Okay, so before we get into other options, have we issued RFPs or anything? Do we have, okay. So I think we need to get proposals from other companies.
Yes,
That'll be one thing.
that's the idea. Yes.
And then the other thing I think we really need to talk about, which hasn't, we've only met a couple of times, but I brought this up, I think, in our last meeting. The approach of having designated parking spaces, given the size of the spaces in Hudson, can be very inefficient in terms of the number of cars that can park. And again, I'm going to bring the example up of just the space in front of my house. We can have 4 cars. Tom, I see you sighing and rolling your eyes. We can have 4 cars parked in front of my house, and I can guarantee you that the space between my house and the house next door would not accommodate 3 Hudson-sized parking spaces. And frequently there are 4 cars parked there. And so I think that if you take the approach of every 50 feet or 50 meters, whatever, of having something where you do pay and display, you will probably have more efficient parking. And then the other advantage is that once I have left my spot, I may have paid for an hour and a half. I leave after an hour, my half hour does not go to the next person. and the next person pulling in has to pay. And it works very efficiently in many, many cities that I have parked in. I'm just saying we need to talk about it and think about it. That's all.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, what we would
believe that was-
need is actual data about that and how that would work. Definitely, I can see that as a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, is that Ronnie? Go ahead, Ronnie. Sorry.
Yeah, the study actually specifically said to do away with, or recommended that we do away with actual spaces because the
Right.
spaces have to be a certain length. So just by that notion, it lessens the amount of space. So I think if we do go with Duncan's system, we should probably look at like the multi-system. So
Yeah, I just.
even though he was against it, but that's his.
Against it. I just,
No, not you. I mean, the presenter was somewhat against the multi-system, but
of course it is. Sure.
you can sell
And,
less meters that way.
I just got a quick question for Margaret. So what you're saying is, so using the example you just said, that if someone comes and parks, and pays, and then they leave, the next person starts the clock all over again?
Yes, when you do pay and display, you pull in, you go to the kiosk, you get something and you put it in on your dashboard. And maybe I purchase an hour and a half of space, but actually the system that Duncan was presenting would have the same advantage. I leave after an hour and I still had 30 minutes out. On the metered system where you have a physical meter associated with the space, there's 30 minutes still on the clock there. Whereas if I leave, the next car that comes in doesn't get the benefit of the 30 minutes I have left on the clock. They have to put in their own information because it goes by your license plate. And I believe from what he was presenting that that's probably how their system works. I'm not quite sure because
I think he specifically mentioned that his meters don't have the ability to enter license plates. They go either by space number or the location.
Okay.
So his would still have that drawback of someone continuing to use that space.
But a huge advantage of the situation where you do pay and display is that nobody gets, if I leave after 45 minutes and I've put in money for an hour and a half, nobody gets that remaining 45 minutes. They have to put in their own, it starts over and they have to put in their money for when they're going to park.
Yeah, that's like a system only would work like that because, we print out or maybe in a license plate number on a system.
Exactly.
They don't know, next person when they come, they don't know, and it's not.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
What do you make of the argument that with a kiosk that covers many spaces, if it goes down, all those spaces are out of operation?
It's not that you're going to have one kiosk per block. You have them at reasonable. I would have to look at, places parked, but it's not just like one per block. And I know that was brought up a couple of months ago, but I really do not see that as being a major issue.
Okay, Vicky.
Yes, so when we do the RFPs, very important to ask for costs because right now we have the Duncan system and according to him, the housing is there and it will cost us less.
Yeah.
And I just feel that if we're talking for, 20,000-30,000 less, that can be an incentive for us to go with them.
It could be. If we're only getting the top piece for a lot of meters versus new kiosks everywhere, that could be a big difference. I agree.
Yes, so please ask for the cost. That's important. Okay.
And let me say that now we know we can go forward with this because the BEA has agreed to create a fund. Do we have to put that before the council? Probably do. The creation of a fund, Yeah, I don't know either. I'll check. but we will have a dedicated fund to finance this project.
It's part of the budget process.
Yeah, oh, we're doing it during the budget process, that's exactly right, that's what I meant by the beginning. So we'll have the money, in reserve. Using the money, by the way, that has come in from the sale of 429 Warren Street, which was my hope, and it's come true. Anyway, I agree, Margaret, we will look at both systems. It's crucial, and, we just need a lot more facts, and it's gonna take a while. Excuse me?
No, I say yes,
Oh,
because we have to compare both of them
yeah,
and see what benefited us in the future, then we could go from there, but we can make a decision just today,
right. I would like to hear.
One other thing I want to put out there, Tom, with
Please.
when you're looking at app-based parking, we need to look at the functionality where if you have parked somewhere and you are remote from there, do you have the ability to put in more money and add more time to your space? I've used that multiple times myself in my travels, and it is very, very helpful.
Yeah, these Duncan can do that.
Yeah, you have
These
a
can
mobile
do-
payment app.
Excuse me?
The ones we saw tonight can take an app that you'd be able to do that.
Okay, but I think if we had seen the proposal ahead of time, it would have been helpful and we would have understood their capabilities.
Yeah, well. Either way. Okay, I guess unless there's any other questions from the public?
Hey, quick one.
Yes, Bill.
Tracy, the old meters, are those Dunkins also?
Yes.
Yeah.
And will they also take this? Because they're a different shape. Aren't they?
You're saying, will this insert go inside of the
The
current
new ones
housings?
and the old Dunkins?
Yes, there may be some housings that may need to be replaced because they're antiquated. There's some that we can't even get into that they're so old that the keys don't work in them and they can't open. So there may be some housings that may need to be replaced, but throughout the whole city, it's minimal.
Really, even the different shaped old ones will take that
Yes.
as proof.
The insert looks very similar of what's inside the other.
So, Tom, just one other thing that I hope we can have on the agenda in perhaps a future meeting is the discussion of adding meters below 3rd Street on Warren, and also changing the schedule for having free parking to a weekday rather than Sunday. Because these are,
That's definitely on the agenda. I wanted to say them, right, now we can do that in conjunction with all this, but as I know, that extending the meters to the full length of Warren is gonna be a bit controversial, as you can imagine. But I
Yes.
agree with you, it has to be done. And what was the other thing you mentioned just now?
well, on the Warren thing, I have had correspondence from somebody who lives on Warren, has business on Warren, who is actually asking to have meters put on Warren because it is impossible to park. Because, so we actually have people living below 3rd who would like to see meters because
And the
everybody parks down there. And the other issue which was proposed in the study was that we move the free parking day from Sunday to a weekday. I think that's something this committee should discuss.
Yep. That, to me, that's like very obvious that we should charge on Sunday and maybe even make Monday and Tuesday free, because both days are very.
I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, because Monday also tends to be a fairly busy day.
I
I'm
think
guessing
we
the
should-
Sunday thing is kind of a vestige of like, like you would have to have a attendant that is working on Sunday too. That's probably why it was
Yeah.
a free
No,
day.
No, but a lot of stores are closed Tuesday and Wednesday in Hudson. I think we should just have one day off. We don't have to have 2 days. We should just do a Tuesday off. Maybe, I don't know.
But Monday is very often a very busy tourist day.
Okay, we'll decide that in the near future. And with that, I think that's all for today. Thank you all for coming. That was an interesting presentation. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye. Unplug it. Good advice. Good. Like,